Welcome back, gang, for the first time and hopefully many more to come. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the notifications right here, this little bell, so you can get those emails every time we go live. Peace.
ThaBoxingvoice.com, join with head of
Boxing Voice.
Boxing.
You guys, what a coup you pulled off in the week. On the phone.
Ain't that something?
Mate, unbelievable. I'm there. Oh, we got Wilder on the line. Then I get blindsided by Shelly Finkel. Then Tyson Fury comes on the phone. It's incredible.
All at one time.
Big waves for the Boxing Voice.
What a show. Right. And well, we're here to for Matchroom's foray into the U.S. Matchroom U.S. Danny Jacobs and Luis Arias. And we're going to cover that. We're going to talk to all the fighters later. And we're going to be at the fight on Saturday.
Good, man.
Well, we do want to circle back to the conversation that we had this week. Interesting to say the least. Got to speak to Deontay. Got to speak to Shelly Finkel, his management, the person that you most likely would negotiate, one of the parties that you would negotiate. You weren't quite sure who to negotiate with.
Yeah.
Right. So just as a follow-up, let the fans know. And again, negotiations, you don't want to make necessarily everything public, but perhaps you can let the fans know when the initial talks will take place.
I mean, again, that's why I phoned in. Because all I could hear was Deontay saying, "You guys are running from the fight." Well, I was like, well, hold on a minute, how long has this been happening for? You know, we haven't even talked about the fight. We haven't received an offer. We haven't talked about terms. So really, the first thing to do is to talk about terms. Find out if you're real. Find out if you really want the fight, or find out if you want to use Anthony Joshua's name as publicity, or if you want to price yourself out of the fight, or if you actually do want the fight. And that's what we plan to do this week. This is the biggest fight in world boxing, unquestionably. So it's not something that's just negotiated over Twitter and he takes that bit. So on Thursday we'll sit down with Haymon and Shelly Finkel and we'll have the first conversation about Wilder against Joshua. The first of many conversations. And you know, I don't know whether this fight happens next or in the summer or in the fall. But one thing I can tell you, I can tell fight fans, this fight happens in 2018. I think that's unquestionable. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's nowhere near as big as now as it will be in the spring. And it's nowhere near as big as it is in the spring as it is in the summer or the fall. But fight fans are impatient, they have a voice, and of course we have to deliver for them. So when the time is right to strike on that fight, we have to make it. That could be in March or April. I think that's unlikely, to be honest with you. More likely for the summer. But like I said, you will see that fight in 2018, unless Wilder just has crazy ideas of his value in the fight. And we're not looking to be disrespectful. You know, it's not as if we're going to come in and say, oh, it's 90-10 and you know, you sell 5,000 tickets in the Barclays. He's a world champion, he's an excellent fighter, so we have to give him the credit. But we also have to understand the size globally of Anthony Joshua and also the money that he's making at the moment.
Your initial conversation will allow you to, in essence, vet out the roadmap that this fight may have, right? So the initial conversation, what are the realistic expectations of the fight was to happen right away, and whether or not those numbers will, because it's not worth it's not worth as much as you said before, later.
Possible. Look, if everyone's smart, we build the fight to a point in 2018 where both fighters make astronomical amounts of money. Both fighters say, let's do it next. There's still big money on the table. No problem. We don't have a problem with that. Joshua doesn't have a problem with that. But we haven't even had a conversation about a deal yet. You know, so Wilder is doing what he should be doing, which is using Joshua's name to gain profile and to make as much noise as possible. And he's doing a really good job. Now, I feel for Deontay Wilder because he doesn't really have a promoter and he's having to do everything himself. Like, not being funny. He's phoned up the Boxing Voice himself. Right? He's speaking to all these outlets himself and phoning them himself. It's not like there's a publicist saying, Deontay, speak to this guy, speak to that guy. Like, during the call they said, get Anthony Joshua on the phone. So it doesn't work like that. You know, we have a strategy in place. He has a commercial team, a media team, a PR team. So I'm the voice, effectively, and he can sit back and relax and enjoy himself. But Deontay is out there driving, and he's doing a really good job because I feel for him, because he's a one-man band in that respect. You know, so he's got to go out there and make his own noise.
So if he wants his fight next, he has to understand that financially it's not going to...
Yeah, it's not a case... We can't be disrespectful to Deontay, but it's not a case of take that or see you later. But we may have a conversation with Shelly Finkel and Haymon. After 5 minutes, I might be able to say, guys, thank you very much. Let's chat in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, because we're on them.
Not to say that you have to do it, but would you be able to quantify Joshua's value to those parties, Finkel and Haymon?
No, not really. I mean, look, I think negotiations, are there for the boardroom. We all have fun on social media, but with Anthony, as always, negotiations will take place behind closed doors, and the business will be taken care of in a ring. So one thing I can tell you is Anthony Joshua makes 7 times as much money as Deontay Wilder every time he fights. So
that's fact.
Yeah, fact. So it's not like
hyperbole.
Yeah, it's not like he's worth this, he's worth that. Right. Deontay Wilder has huge value in the Joshua fight. He's a big name, a great fighter. He looks the part. He's WBC world champion, but you can't compare him to Anthony Joshua in that respect. So, but we're not looking to be offensive. We're not looking to be arrogant. We're not looking to be rude. And as I've said before in interviews, we will have to overpay Deontay Wilder in terms of his value in this fight, because otherwise he would deem it as disrespectful. So we have to find a middle ground between reality and fantasy. Sure. Yeah. And if we can do that, the fight will get made very quickly.
And that's under the assumption that the fight, if it was to take place first quarter of 2018, that it would take place in the UK.
Not necessarily. I mean, we have no problem fighting in America. I mean, Deontay Wilder's made it clear he wants it in the US, but he will travel, supposedly. Again, we haven't had a conversation with his team yet. From our side, when you deal with Anthony Joshua, when you talk about his boxing, you just have to deal with me. That's it. Not an advisor, a manager, another manager, So, and then I will report back to Anthony and the team internally. So, for the fight to take place in the first quarter, the deal has to be right, and until we have a conversation, we have no idea. So it's all very well going on social media, you guys are running it. It's not as if Deontay Wilder's phoned us up and said, I offer you $100 million for the fight, and we've turned it down. We'll be the ones making the offers, And again, whether it's a split, whether it's a purse, I don't know. But all these guys keep calling Anthony out, and it's just a case of how much you're going to pay him. Right. So we're under the pressure to put all the money up to get these guys to face Anthony. So, but we know what the fans want. Fans want Joshua Wilder. They want Joshua Parker. They want any fight that's going to make an undisputed belt. And the plan is, if it's not Wilder next, I'd like it to be Parker. Because then we go into the Wilder fight for the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. All the belts versus one belt. And that fight as an undisputed heavyweight world champion would be a wonderful spectacle.
Is putting Deontay Wilder on a bill with Joshua and, let's say hypothetically, Parker something that you would
Possibly.
consider?
I mean, because Deontay Wilder's not earning a lot of money at the moment, that could be achievable. I would still like Deontay to fight Dillian White. Right. That was my idea. Build the fight. That would be a great fight. They'd really go at each other. Wilder's profile and value would raise significantly. And then we go into a Joshua fight in the summer or whatever. But again, until I sit down with these people, I have no idea what they're thinking. They talked in the past about we'd take the White fight if the Joshua fight was on the table. That could be something we're open to. In the past I've said no, but again, I don't know what they want to fight Joshua. And I won't know that until we sit down.
And you'll know the parameters when you have the initial discussion, or have a general idea of the parameters when you have that first discussion tomorrow. The general outline of a deal, or just speaking in generalities, just to get an idea of what their perspective is, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a case of sitting down in this meeting and say, right, this is the offer, take it or leave it. This is going to be, look, this is how I see Deontay's value in the fight. This fight's going to grow considerably. Do you want it now? Or do you want to work together? I mean, I think they're going to fight Dominic Brazil next. I think that's actually done, that fight and that deal.
I perhaps heard different. I've heard from...
or Ortiz.
I've actually heard from somebody who fought on one of your cards, Charles Martin, who said that he was in consideration for a Dominic Brazil fight. I spoke to Louis Ortiz, who's in the process, along with the WBC, of kind of clearing out his name. So that's an alternative that they can look at as Wilder and Ortiz.
I'm pretty sure. And by the way, I think Wilder has done a good job in the last 6 months to personally increase his profile. And whilst Wilder against Brazil is not a fight that's going to give him any credibility, it's a fight that probably does some decent business on Showtime and at the Barclays. So, but again, you have to cut away the bluster and actually get the reality, which is, do you really want this fight next? really? You know, yeah, I do. I'm the baddest man. No. Forget you. Shelly, out. Do you really want this fight next? Or do you want to build it into an even bigger fight in 3 months, 6 months? Or if you really want it, if they really want the fight, they will receive an offer to take the fight next. But again, I have no idea their perception of what the deal is.
And the rationale is, if the fight is to happen next, there's going to be money left on the table.
Yes.
And you do not want that to be taken as an insult. That's just more fact.
No, if the fight happens next, they're both going to earn a lot less than they could do in 6 or 12 months.
That's fact.
Yes, and they know that, but it doesn't mean it won't happen next. It just means that sometimes you have to strike, and sometimes you have to wait. You know, you look at Pacquiao against Mayweather. That fight happened well after their prime.
Sure.
But they pretty much got max dollar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, from a business point of view, it was the right time. From a fan's point of view, it was the wrong time. We can't make the same mistake. We can't let the fans down and give them Wilder against Joshua when both guys have been beaten and one's the champ, one's not, etc., etc. So, you know, we have to get that right. We have to manage the career of Anthony Joshua correctly. We have to forget the bluster and and deal with the reality. But the reality is, from Anthony Joshua, zero fear. You know, and anyone that questions the credentials or ability of Anthony Joshua to step up to challenges need to remember that in his 16th fight he fought for the world heavyweight title. In his 19th fight he unified the division against Vladimir Klitschko. In Deontay Wilder's 19th fight, he boxed on the undercard in Cancun in an 8-rounder.
Yeah, that's fair. Listen,
and also don't forget that when Deontay Wilder won the world heavyweight title and had defence, Shelly Finkel was quoted as saying, "He's just a baby. He's got a long way to go. We're going to have some nice defences and then work our way into a unification fight." At that stage, I believe he was 33-0.
sure.
Anthony's just turned 20-0, but that's not. So, but we're ready. We're ready for the Wilder fight. But understand that he's always stepping up before his time, and he deserves credit for that.
Well, yeah, and of course, but it's a gift and a curse. Yes, he beat Vladimir Klitschko, a Hall of Famer. He knocked out Vladimir Klitschko, and like you said, practically knocked his head off with that uppercut, right? So that's going to give him credibility.
Yeah.
But there's
he's got the career-defining fight.
Of course.
That Wilder hasn't.
Right.
But you know, their resumes are not too dissimilar out of that fight. It's just that the truth is that Wilder's never boxed any top heavyweight.
And that's a significant victory. However, that victory is only going to last so long. Of course, it'll always be on his resume.
Yeah.
But the sentiment that he gets after that victory is only going to last so long. Now, I want to circle back to one more thing really quick. I remember back in the early 90s, Mike Tyson and George Foreman were put on the same bill, and under the circumstances that they both were victorious, they'd fight each other. Eventually, that fight didn't come through. But I'm going to circle back to what I said before about having Deontay on the same card as Anthony Joshua. I feel personally that card with Anthony Joshua, Parker, and then you have Deontay versus a Dillian White on the undercard.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Right.
You know, because the numbers don't add up on a show like that. You know, if you're talking about two guys having voluntary defences, that could possibly work. But again, is Deontay Wilder going to want to go on an Anthony Joshua undercard when Anthony Joshua is earning 7-8 times more than him? Because it devalues his brand. Do you know what I mean? He has to give the perception right now, which he's doing, that he's on an equal footing. We're both champions. Do you know what I mean? To go on the undercard of Anthony Joshua sounds nice, right, but in reality, he's unlikely.
And if he was contractually stipulated to get Anthony Joshua, if he was to be victorious on the card bill?
But again, all these things, you know, if you fight White, we'll fight Joshua. If you go on the undercard, we'll fight Joshua.
Sure.
You know. At the moment, all of it's irrelevant and all of it's pie in the sky until we have the conversation. But we're having the conversations because we want the fight. I'm not going to waste 2 hours of my life sitting down with Shelly Finkel and our Haymon talking about the fight if we don't actively want it. We do. The fight has to happen in 2018. I'm just telling fans and being honest, I don't know whether it's next or the one after or in the fall. But I promise you it will be in 2018.
And before we let you go, is it fair to assume that after you have this initial discussion, if we don't hear much from you after that, perhaps the discussions are headed in the right way because you don't want to...
No, I'm not. Look, I'm not going to have the discussions and then start coming on the Boxing Voice and telling you everything was it. Sure. I've got always, you know me, I've got a big mouth. We speak on social media a lot. It's good for the fans. It's good to let the fans know what's happening. But there's not going to be a conversation on Thursday and then a report of the meeting. This is a conversation that is going to go on for a very long time. To walk out of that meeting on Thursday and go, wow, I think this could be done like within a couple of days.
No, it's never going to happen.
So therefore, we don't want to upset anyone. We don't want to offend anyone. You know, to come out of the meeting and say, these guys are ridiculous, they're not realists, you know, no, it's not going to work. So we need to work together to try and give the fans what they want.
And the nice part about it is you do have some levers on your side. I mean, you have Parker as an alternative. You had Tyson Fury who called in, that would be a huge fight in the UK.
Anthony Joshua's not struggling, you know, like, he can do whatever he wants, but he wants to be in the big fights, and he wants to give the fans the big fights, and we want to give the fans the big fights. And I feel like we have an opportunity here with Joshua against Wilder to make the biggest fight in world boxing. It's only scratching the surface of how big it could be, but what we don't want is someone to get beat or someone to look bad, or so we need to strike at the right time.
And finally, I mean, you're looking to expand the Matchroom USA operation. Obviously, we'd like to see that. You run a great promotional outfit in the UK. There's no better way to make a bang, and you're going to make a bang this weekend with Danny Jacobs, of course, but to make a bang in the US market with a Joshua Wilder fight in US soil and on a Matchroom USA card.
Yeah, cool. So it's early days for us. We've got a great show on Saturday in Long Island. Danny Jacobs against Luis Arias, a great fight. Jarrell Miller, another guy that's in the mix for all these guys, in a really tough fight against Marius Wack, by the way. People just, you know, that's a tough fight against a very good heavyweight. You know, Ortiz against Selden as well is going to be a lot of fun. We've got Conor Benn on the card, our young Brit. So we're learning in the market. You know, as confident as I am and as arrogant as I am, you're not going to see me come in saying, we're going to take over this and that and put everyone out of business. You know, that's going to happen in time. But ultimately, for now, we're learning about the market. This is our first show. We look to do 4 in 2018, look to do 8 in 2019, and ultimately 16 in 2020. So we'll see where it takes us, but first things first, let's get the win for Danny Jacobs and move towards that, the Mew Saunders winner, and also, of course, the Canelo Golovkin winner.
And you've had other fighters here domestically ringing you
non-stop, yeah. But I can't give people, listen, if I was a chancer, I would sign a dozen fighters straight away, but there's no value because I have 4 shows, you know, over the next 12 months with HBO. So, you know, there's stuff that I can do for people and there's stuff that I can't do for people. So there's no point signing a fighter. The problem with American fighters is they're so inactive. And what that means is it's going to affect them in the ring and it's going to affect them out of the ring. So we have to give the fighters activities. Danny Jacobs will box minimum 3 times over 12 months. Great for him, but he's got to keep winning. So I need to make sure that I don't make the same mistake that others have made and not giving fighters any activity. I need to give the fighters activity, increase their profile, and if I can't do that, there's no point in me signing them. So we start with Danny. Danny's our flagship in the US, and then we move on.
Excellent. Listen, we appreciate your time. We look forward to the card this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.